So there's three phases to building a business. And so there's build, grow, and scale. And
Cool.
so a lot of people get hung in the build stage because they didn't do that foundation right. Remember we talked about with that culture, that bottom line.
Right.
If you can get the several foundations, and I'm talking about leadership, I'm talking about sales, marketing, operations, your product ladder, making sure you don't get too wide too quick, and then your cash flow, managing your cash flow.
Welcome to Beyond Clean with Ace. In the world of commercial cleaning, whether you're new to the industry or a seasoned professional, you know we're all more than just toilets, windows, and floors. We're just like everyone else with diverse interests in everything. Now in Season 9, tens of thousands have discovered engaging and thoughtful knowledge that's truly game-changing at Beyond Clean with Ace. Whether you're a facility manager, a frontline staff member, or a building services contractor, we're here to help you grow personally and professionally. So hit that subscribe button and share with others. We're all about enhancing lives in healthy, positive, and proactive ways. So join me, Dave Thompson, Director of the Academy of Cleaning Excellence, your host at Beyond Clean with Ace. Hello, everyone. Well, it's Dave Thompson, and hey, what? I'm starting a new year. Yeah, I know, it's April. I am lax on it. I haven't been doing the podcast. It has been a busy first quarter. I don't know about you, but 2025, and it's already a quarter gone. Anyway, you didn't come here to listen to me chat, although it is where we talk about everything but, well, cleaning is probably the main focus. Hey, I was at a conference last week and I ran into a guy. We've been on LinkedIn. We've talked to each other on the LinkedIn and we've watched each other. But, conferences are one of those things you get to share and share alike. And, it's kind of nice. You know what? You can tell, hey, I'm not a young guy. I like seeing people face to face, shaking their hand and talking to them. And, hey, I got him to come on the podcast, my first one of this year. So let's see where it goes. Everything's working right because I see a face that's not mine, Jerry.
Well, I don't know if mine's much better. But thanks for having me on, Dave. Finally, pretty awesome getting to meet you in person. I know, like you said, we've seen each other from a distance over the years, and I've always known you as the floor guru. And so when I was running my janitorial company, if I couldn't figure something else, I'd always figure it out. I always jump on your site and see what I could learn and teach these young guys some stuff about floors. So thank you for having me on. Such an honor. And it was really, really good to meet you in person and get to hang out for a little while and talk.
So Jerry, you and I know about each other, and most of the people that are listening to the podcast today or watching it on YouTube, they know about me, but they don't know much about Jerry. So before we get into what we do and all that kind of stuff, who are you? What do you do? And why should we listen to you today?
Sure. Well, like you said, my name is Jerry Flug. I was a commercial janitorial company owner for about 20 years, maybe 21. I entered into that business really just out of a situation to help my family. And so I got into the business and just fell in love with it. So I was doing that for about 21 years. And just a couple of years ago, 2 years ago to be exact, we went through a merger and sold our company. And I took some time off thinking, hey, I'm going to semi-retire here. And that lasted for about 6 months. I got super bored with that. And in the meantime, while that was happening during retirement, I had so many people that came to me and just asking me questions about the industry and how they could grow their business. And when I was running my business, I loved to see people win. I wanted to always move them from having 3 jobs and getting them into our organization and it being their one job, and then they can spend valuable time with their families. So over the course of the last 2 years, I started HRA Consulting Group, and I'm doing. It's funny, I call it HRA Consulting, but I'm doing way more coaching. And here's the cool thing about being a coach in this industry is I lived in that world for 20 years, and prior to that, 10 years in facilities management. So it's nice to be able to sit with people and they take the risk on hiring you as a coach. And the first couple of minutes in our first conversation, they realize, this guy knows what I'm living with. He went to bed worried about payroll. He went to bed worried about, are they going to show up tomorrow? Who's going to show up at buildings? And listen, the thing that makes us all experts in the cleaning industry is we led organizations through COVID. So we're total rock stars when it comes to knowing this business. And so I love just being a part of it. I love helping small business owners win, especially in this industry. And so I'm kind of new to the scene for a lot of people, but I'm absolutely thrilled to be helping out in this industry. So I totally love it. Totally love the people, and everybody I've met has just been great people. So,
man, there is so much I could unpack in what you just said there, because
let's do it.
Hey, we're kind of in the same area, right? We call it Academy of Cleaning, but most generally, I'm coaching people. Most people that come in are either starting a new business or they've only been in business a couple of years, and they're trying to get out of that. I'm not meaning anything bad, folks, but the mom and pop small business to where we have to live at 24/7, 365. They want to go on vacation. They want to be able to relax and not worry about payroll for a day. And I think that, just like you, that's the beauty. That's why I stay in it.
Yeah, listen, I've lived in that vein of, we started out a very small company, 10, 12 employees, right. And we grew to just at 300 employees. And there was stress at every step of the way, but
it never stopped.
Yeah, it doesn't. But the reward of helping people win and being successful, even for us, our organization, we were successful, but we brought people along with us that became successful well. And that was the fun part for me. But we still dealt with, I think one of the things that I probably, when people say to me, what makes you an expert in the coaching of, janitorial business world, I say to them, I will tell them, listen, during COVID, I had 70 people call in the second night, 70 out of 280. And we still got all the buildings cleaned that needed to be cleaned. And so if that doesn't make you an expert, I don't know what does, staffing, management, all that stuff within a 24-hour period. And it's just an amazing industry, and there's just some great people in it, and I love it, man. I love helping and getting into the granular, the weeds with people, and helping them remove things that would cause their organization to stumble and not move from that mom and pop into an organization that is, functioning and operating to where they can take a vacation. So,
okay. So I got a couple of questions. I got to get these out of my head before I lose track of them. Cause you and I talked last week, and things just kind of rock and rolled for hours.
Yeah.
At those different levels, I hear this all the time, and we talked about it last week. The, cleaning companies are notorious for having 300% turnover. And, I've talked to different people in the industry, and they say, well, that's not a true figure because we're seasonal or this or that. As you moved from the 12 people to 300, give me a feeling of what you felt that turnover was then.
Well, I can tell you the first BCWA ISSA show I went to, I heard that all these acronyms. The first one that I went to in Vegas, I heard the turnover rate at 200%, and I thought to myself, I just paid to come here and for you to just squash my dreams, And I was like, thank you so much. But I took that as a challenge. And the challenge for us was, how do we create and cultivate a culture where people want to stay?
Right.
And listen, people in this industry, they'll leave you for a quarter, 50 cents an hour. But if you create an atmosphere or a culture that they want to stay in, then at every level, as you make the adjustment, you continue to really drill down and understand what that culture is and develop it. I said this last week. I think I said it to some of the folks we were talking to, but you have a culture in your business. You have one. Whether you are developing it or not, or you're just hands off, you're creating some kind of a culture.
Or even if you even don't realize it, even if you haven't really formulated it, it's still there.
It's there, right? And so people will, it's often said people don't leave companies, they leave managers, and I find that very true. But that statement, it's driven by the kind of culture that that business owner is allowing to happen. And so we worked really hard on employee retention. We got as low as 65, 70% for many of those years. People would leave and come back to us in the early years,
right?
And say, they just don't treat me the way you treat me. And I took that as a compliment, because in this industry, your biggest resource and your biggest asset is people. And listen, in our culture today in society, we don't treat people that way anymore. That we make everybody expendable, and I just don't see that. So in our business, as we were growing from stage to stage, we spent a lot of time making sure that people were loved on, they were respected, they were communicated with very well. I would make managers come and sit with me in my office when I had a disciplinary action on an employee in the early years. And I said, I want you to do it the way I'm doing it. And listen, I wanted people, when they left my office, they knew they had a corrective action, but I wanted them to leave going, man, I like that guy. I'm so glad I work for him. Because I wanted people to realize, yeah, you made a mistake. We got to get that straight. But there's a lot more value in you than just that mistake.
Yeah, so, you just own up to the mistake, take care of it, and go on. It's when that mistake is repeated and never addressed that it becomes, then that's where the culture has to be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were not dissuaded by the 200% and got it down to below 70.
Yeah, I listen. I wanted to be one of those companies that shut that thing out of the air. Like full. I'm
not going to be part of that statistic, right?
Right. I didn't want to be that, and I wanted to just really do the best to combat that for the industry.
So now once since you got rid of your service and you're consulting with others, or as you say, coaching, what are you finding out with the places you're coaching now?
Yeah, so I think there's still a lot of turnover, but here's what I hope that I'm doing in helping people. I'm helping them structure their company to understand that, listen, you've got to have a mission and a vision statement that does two things. It speaks to your economic growth, your economic goals, but it also speaks to the kind of culture you want to provide for people to work in. So the organization that we built and that we have since sold, all the people, we tried to put an agreement in to say, we want to keep these people for how many years, and all that turned out to be fluff because those people were so into the culture that we had created. They've stayed with the company, and that company has grown exponentially since we've sold it, probably close to doubling, maybe almost tripling in just 3 or 4 years. So that when I see smaller companies, I use it as an example to say, let's get some basic things in place, like our culture, like our core values, and let's live by those. Let's operate the business by those. And then that becomes, Dave, what I tell people is, that becomes the level of trust in the organization. And you have two customers. You have your employees that are customers, and you have the paying customers. And we treat them both the same. That management team, that office team, you have to treat them both the same. So that's just a little bit of the technical to get everybody to that level of trust. Then there's a whole lot of stuff that we put on top of that.
But my question with this, Jerry, is the businesses that you're going in to coach, when you start coaching with them, are you still seeing there at that high 200 and 300? and you're working to help get that down, or has the industry gotten better with this and it's not that way anymore, do you think?
Well, I think so. Here's the word that comes to my mind when you ask that question. I think we're more aware now.
Right.
We're more aware. And so nationally, I don't know how much that number's come down. I've heard it kind of all over the place in recent weeks. But for businesses that I'm working with, when we have been able to get that foundation of trust in place, that number starts to come down. And when they communicate these core values, and so I'm thinking of a couple of companies off the top of my head. I think one company is at like 220, another's at 180, 170, and they're working hard on that because, it's expensive to hire an employee.
Oh, yeah.
Even I don't minimize being a cleaning associate. I do not minimize it at all. No. You heard me last week. It makes the world go round, right? People wouldn't go if the place wasn't clean. That's just the way it is.
Cleaning rocks, my friend. Cleaning rocks.
Yeah, it does. So in that regard, I think the more aware we become as an industry that it's not about paying people more, it's about how we treat them and the kind of culture they're working in.
I think that number down. You've said communications, Jerry, several times so far, and I appreciate that because we even talked about it last week.
Yeah.
It is communication. And how we do that in my session was generational communication. So being aware of the generations and how we communicate. I think this goes to what you're talking about as well. The different generations are motivated differently.
Yeah. And if you're a younger person, you come into this industry, you've got to learn how to bridge the gap between your abilities, your abilities one thing, your knowledge of the industry is another.
Right.
So you've got to work on those two together. But in the meantime, you've got to learn how to bridge the gap of communication with those who might be senior to you. And I think how that's done is with respect, with collaboration, with honesty, and listen, if you don't know, just say, well, I don't know. Let me find out. And I think that will get young people a long way. I'm really championing several companies right now that are turning, the elder generation's turning over to the younger generation. And I love that because I want to see young people, educated people getting into this business and using their skill set that they learned in college or early on, whatever industry they were in, and bring it to our industry. It just elevates it through the roof. And
it's interesting as I go around the country and listen to different people, and even through the podcasts and stuff that we do, how many people are saying, the older generation? I go, well, what do you consider that? And they go, anybody over 45. I'm like, okay, well.
I disagree with that. I just turned 58 and I'm not old.
I thought I'd just throw that in there. But, this is where we have to recognize that. But more and more managers in my coaching, I'm experiencing that middle managers are not schooled in the way to communicate and what drives. I understand that frontline worker needs to help bridge, but isn't middle management one that has to do the bridging?
Absolutely. Really, I feel like this, no matter where you are in the organization, you should always be working hard on growing your skill set, and communication is the biggest one. I think about my kids. I'm 58. My kids are all in their 20s, and I'll say something. They're like, "Oh, Dad, that's not." I'm like, "What? What do you mean it's not?" Like, well, you don't say it that way anymore. We need to say it this way. And I'm like, does it mean I'm being offensive, or am I just not culturally relevant in my communication? And so there's some differences there. And so I think all of us need to work hard on working on communication skills. Even in, like last week, I spoke on creating meetings that collaborate with your team and fit into your culture. And I gave folks 4 or 5 meetings that need to happen throughout the week in their organization that are effective. They bring clarity to what's going on in the company that week, and they're meaningful and memorable. That you got to make meetings to where people walk away and go, oh man, okay, I got it. I understand it. So it's just, last week I got a note after my session and somebody said, that was an amazing session. I'm going to remember that for a while. And here's what I know. There were some fun things we did in that session to where I helped them store that thought or that clarity or whatever that note was by having a little bit of fun with it. Right. And so they're going to go, oh yeah, I remember that. So a lot of times in our organizations, communication it's gruff, right? Just do what I say. Just do what I say and don't worry about it. This generation, the younger generation, they don't roll that way. They want to know the why and the how. And I think that's where it gives guys like you and I a huge opportunity to have a huge impact on the industry.
Now, I'm going to share something here with you folks because we keep talking about where we were in last week.
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to show everybody here, Jerry. We were at the Clean Buildings Conference. That was my third time there. I was there before COVID when they first got started, and then I've been there 2 times since. Jerry, was it your first time?
Yeah, it was my first time attending, and they asked me to speak, and a huge honor. The folks that put it on, I was extremely gracious to be able to do it. And anytime I can get in front of, BSCs and facilities managers and just encourage them. Because, it outside of COVID, I think COVID changed a lot of things for the industry, but in general, it's a very thankless job for a lot of people in this industry. And so I want to celebrate them every chance I get. And so, I made them give themselves a standing ovation, in their class. And, but it's a great, this is absolutely great. It was a great conference. It was good to be part of, and, BCWA, ISSA, all those organizations put on great, I would encourage anybody to be a part of those organizations because the educational side of them is good, along with what you do, Dave. You're the floor care king, from what I understand, and so get involved in those communities. It's a great networking opportunity. But even like you and I, we were just sitting at the table with a couple, and there were so many aha moments for them. We could have charged $1,000 for that lunch visit.
Yeah, they really got a lot of free advice that day, and that's what coaching is. And sometimes it is just giving of yourself, folks. Now, if you're watching the video, you saw the Clean Buildings Conference come up there. If you are just listening, it was last week. It's been in Baltimore for years. Part of the I get this right, NFMT conference. It's been there for years. Next year, though, it's going to Charlotte.
Yeah, they're moving to Charlotte, so that'll be fun.
I can't say that I'm all unhappy about that because for me, from down here in Florida, going to Baltimore in March, my body was just a little bit
chilly.
slow.
Yeah, well, no matter where, I got kids that live in Florida, Dave. No matter when you leave Florida, everywhere you go is going to be cold for you guys.
Well, yeah, I think it's 91 out there right now, folks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But Jerry, we've been doing this for some time, you and I. It never gets old, does it?
No, and I think that's because people that come into this industry, they got some drive, right? They've got drive, they got passion, and what they need from guys like you and me is they just need the help with the structure and how to build. There's 3 phases to a business: is build, grow, and scale.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's go back over that one more time because I want to make sure we get that.
Yeah. So there's three phases to building a business, and so there's build, grow, and scale. And
Cool.
So a lot of people get hung in the build stage because they didn't do that foundation right. Remember we talked about with that culture, that bottom line.
Right.
If you can get the several foundations, and I'm talking about leadership, I'm talking about sales, marketing, operations, your product ladder, making sure you don't get too wide too quick. And then your cash flow, managing your cash flow. Those are 6 things that I work really hard on with businesses. And if we get that foundation done in the first 2 years of build, then growing is a lot easier. And then when you go to scale, I tell everybody, my organization, I got my operations just enough ahead of my sales so that I could grow into it. Yes. Did I give up some cash out of my own pocket to do it? Yes. But I knew the long term what was going to happen. And so if people that come into this industry will understand, even if, listen, I'm a coach. I love to help people win. I realize people don't have an extreme amount of money to hire a coach. But I have a young lady in Ohio. She started out last year at $300,000, and she heard about me, and then she met me in Vegas. She goes, I can't afford to pay you anything, but I really need your help. And so I said, look, let's do this. We'll work 30 days for free, and let's see how it goes. So I gave her 3 or 4 sessions, and today we're 4 months in. She's booming. She is absolutely booming because we spent some time on making sure that she had some of those foundational things. So it's an outstanding industry. And listen, you can do really well in this industry if you just want to put food on the table for your family. But if you want generational wealth, you can do that too. There's a lot of businesses out there that they get to the point of scale, and it's just repeatable processes, rinse and repeat, and their business is booming.
I've got a job bidding class, and one of the things that I always start that class with, Jerry, is, are you all about making money? And they go, oh, yeah, we got to make money. I go, well, then you're probably one of those people that won't make it to 3 or 5 years in business. Yeah. Because if all you do is make money, you're going to be working 24/7, 365. You're going to burn out. You're never going to grow. You're never going to scale. You're always, as you said, you're always in building cycle.
Yeah.
So then my next thing is I show it big on the screen. I show a big picture of the ocean and the beach, and there's footprints. And I go, or would you like to put footprints in the sand and come back and have a business? Yeah. If you're not making profit, you're not going to survive. And it's like, huh?
Yeah.
And I think that's what coaching is about, right? It's just saying these little things that you and I have learned, sometimes through personal experience and sometimes listening to others. But you hear something so many times, then it's like they go, well, I never looked at it that way. And that's that time where you go, aha.
Yep. I tell people, and here's some free advice, right? I charge thousands of dollars to tell people this.
Okay, we get it free today.
Listen,
free today and today only.
Here in this industry, outstanding customer service. Call people back when they call you. Answer their call when they call you. Outstanding customer service. Treat people well across the board. Employees, customers, everybody across the board. And treat your family well in the process. If you have a rough day at work, when you're driving home, leave it in the car. Treat your family well, because they don't need to be miserable. They got enough on their plate. And the last thing is figure out how to make a little bit of profit, then a little more profit, and then a little more profit, right? But if you treat people well, you treat your customers well, and you have great customer service, and you run your operations well, you're going to find yourself very profitable, for the industry. And so I'm astounded at the number of walkthroughs I used to go through, Dave, and people would say, hey, so, your building looks pretty good. What's the reason for changing companies or bidding? And they say, they don't ever return our call. We can't get a hold of them when we have an issue. And I'm thinking to myself, come on, just pick up the phone. That's the people that are paying you, And so that's a big deal in this industry. Make sure you're returning calls of your customers.
But now you're asking people to actually use the phone and talk to people. You don't, Jerry? Don't you realize people don't do that anymore?
Listen, my dad taught me this when I first bought the company or started our company. He was an old school salesman. He used to take coffee cups with our logo on it and coffee bags and a scratch pad with our logo on it.
Oh, yes.
You know how many people called us because of that stupid scratch pad? All the marketing stuff in the world back in the day, and even now, I still tell people, take a scratch pad when you go do a face-to-face visit, leave it with the person at the front desk, and the first or second time they hear the boss complain about the cleaning, hey, we should call this company. Right.
You know, my dad was a salesman for GE whenever I was growing up, and he was the Tootsie Roll guy.
Yeah.
He also had the lifesavers, and depending on where he was in the universe, was he'd be giving lifesavers or Tootsie Rolls out. And for me, because of our Rockstar program, today I had a gentleman at one of our showcases here a couple of weeks ago. He goes, I haven't seen you in about 4 years, but you're the Rockstar guy, right?
Yeah. And I don't want to leave that open-ended because I think a lot of people might criticize my thought process. And let me close the loop on that.
No, I think that's right, because the thing is we've got to use what we did then and put it into today's environment and communication. But it's still that communication, that connection.
Right. And that's what I was getting ready to say. Put a face to your name and a face to the company. I'm all about CRMs. Every time I go speak somewhere and somebody clicks on my little thing to get or clicks on the QR code to get my information and all, I get their information. But listen, I don't want to bombard them with emails. They got a chance to meet me. If there's a connection there and I can help them in their business, I want to help them. I might send them a problem-solving email like, hey, I discovered this in the janitorial business. I thought this might help you. And if they reach out that way, that's good. But don't use all the tools that people have created to benefit your business, but don't lose sight of that personal touch. It goes a long way. And listen, the next generation that's coming into business, they're huge on community. They want connection. They want community. They want to be with people. And we cannot lose sight of that, because it's an odd dichotomy, because yesterday I'm watching the news and they're talking about 5-10 years from now, robots will be doing a lot of service industry work, but the generation that's coming up craves community. So I'm not sure. I don't know how those two things are going to intersect. So that's an interesting thing to me, but don't lose sight of that personal connection. So,
yeah, and
I'll give you an example. You and I, we've been watching, right? And I was, when I walked in and you were filling in for somebody at the conference, I'm like, oh, sweet, I get to meet this guy. And I was kind of like, I don't know, he's going to think I'm weird or stalker or something. I just went up and introduced myself, and we hit it off. So.
And I was just about ready to say, Jerry, you and I are a perfect example of that, of what you're just now talking about. Yeah. I mean, how many years have we seen each other on LinkedIn?
Oh, probably at least 10 minimum. Maybe
I was going to say
more.
a decade.
Yeah.
But we were at a conference together. We met face to face, and here you are within a week on a podcast with me.
Yeah.
But it was that connection that brought us like this, and who knows where this is. I got to tell you, I don't think it's the last time we'll each see each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So,
but I think this is the thing is when we talk about coaching, folks, it goes more than, oh, we want you just to pay for our time so we can get rich.
Yeah.
The money is the side effect. It's what we have to do in order to live. The whole purpose is you.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to walk through you growing your business with you. And the benefit is we've been there. I just signed on some folks up in the northern part of the country, and they said, listen, and they grilled me in the interview process. They grilled me like, we've been with other coaches, we've been, and this, and they didn't do this, they didn't understand us. And they said, so what sets you apart? And here's what I tell them. What sets me apart is I've run an organization like what you have or what you're aspiring to have. And so I know what you're going through. I understand it. I get it. So yeah. And if people are interested, absolutely jump on my website. You can book an hour and a half call just to hang out and talk and see for a good fit. We've got a couple of packages there that are monthly. We do team workshops, and I, just recently have been doing several keynote speaking events. So be glad to help out in any way we can. And Dave, you can laugh at me like my kids did, but I'm heavy into finishing up a book about my experience in the janitorial world and those things, customer service, but people, and some success stories we had with some people, and the way we developed our culture to be people centric and revolve around them and their successes. And so I'm hoping to get that thing out here by the first of the fall, maybe before. And so it's not a long read. It's a short read because here's what I've learned. We don't have time to sit down. I'm not a big reader at times, but I will do small chapters that got every one of them has a golden nugget and has the aha moment for you. And they might, might be 1,000 words, 1,200 words in a chapter to where you feel like you've accomplished something by just catching it. So that'll be coming out soon. Maybe you can have me back on. We can talk about that. So.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Now, folks, if you're watching the video here on YouTube, you saw that I had Jerry's website up as he was talking. One of the things I do with websites all the time, if you've been on my podcast before, know anything about what I've done, I always go to the bottom of the page. I most generally don't even start at the top. I just go right to the bottom because there's always something down there that you can do right quick. And at the bottom of Jerry's page, it says, start your free business assessment here. Yeah. You can afford that coaching with Jerry. I can guarantee you can
absolutely.
do that.
Yeah, I will tell you this. I am, my desire is I want to see this industry just explode and for people to do well. And I want to help you win in every aspect of your business. But I want you to be able to put your head on a pillow at night and go, we did good today. We treated people well, made a little money, and I'm able to take care of my family. And so I'm absolutely excited to be able to help people and looking forward to bringing on as many more as we can. So,
well, I usually say,
I've done it, right?
Usually I ask people, what's your parting words? I think you just gave them to me.
Yeah. You listen, here's my encouragement. If you're in this business or new to this business, keep pushing. You can do it. Just keep pushing, keep working hard. And listen, I've come to this conclusion. When my business exploded, it was the day I hired a coach to help me see things I couldn't see for myself or do things that I should have been doing that I just wasn't willing to do. And they gave me that nudge. And listen, coaching relationships, I know Dave was the same way. They're not set to be a year, 2, 3 years. There's short-term gaps where you need them. But that relationship you'll build with a coach, man, I tell you what, it's somebody that you can call. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't charge you for every 15-minute call. If you sign up for any of my packages, you'll have my cell number. You can call or text me when you get in a moment that you might need it most. So, and I know Dave's the same way. So we want to see you win, and let's go, man. Let's do it. Let's make this industry shine.
So, hey, folks, if you've been here with us before, you know all the things. If you're new to the podcast this year, you can find us on all of the social media out there. If you want to get the full experience here at the Academy, website's right there on the front of the video. If you're listening, it's academyofcleaning.com. Yes, we are the ones that produce the Rock Stars of Cleaning, the competition every year. Nominations are open right now. Go there, nominate somebody. You know what I tell Jerry, everybody, there's always a rock star in your cleaning organization. Nominate them. Who knows? We're looking for the new rock star of cleaning for 2025. Go on there, find out. Anyway, check it out. There's all kinds of things. As Jerry said, our classes, our coaching is there. We also showed you Jerry's website. Go there. We got all the YouTube and all that kind of stuff. We all have all of that. But I want to ask a couple questions of Jerry before we let him go here. He's probably not ready for these because nobody is, but he's a first-time guest here on the show, so I have to do it, Jerry.
I gotcha.
So, where were you born?
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, Hampton Roads to a lot of people.
And as you said, that was 50 some years ago.
58.
You're younger than I am, so I can say that.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, it's the first quarter is gone, as we said.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of 2025 still left. What is on your personal bucket list? And you talked to us about the book, so let's not count that. That's business.
Sure.
Personal bucket list for you yourself for this year.
My personal bucket list this year is just recently my wife's gone through some health issues, and by the grace of God, she's doing well. And so we would like to get on a cruise this year, just the two of us. And so that's on my list right now is to see if we can get her healthy enough to where we can do that. So she's on board for it. So
where would that be to, Jerry?
We like the Caribbean. And so we're thinking about probably this time the Western Caribbean. So.
Oh, so that makes it sound like you're an old hat at these cruises.
Not really. It's just it's on my bucket list. So
okay.
Yeah.
So folks, you might be asking, why do I ask these questions? And here is my answer for that. We now know where Jerry was born and where he started life. We know something about his career and what has happened. The book will tell us more, I'm sure. And we also know where he wants to go here, this year. My advice to you is wherever that journey is, from where you started, where you have been to where you're going, make sure that you keep that journey healthy, positive, and proactive. Until we talk to you again, stay safe out there, folks. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Dave. What an honor.